Alright, let's see if we can get through some of your questions. How can I put point numbers and symbols on different layers? You said that with CNG you would enter a deed on separate layers with point numbers on that layer. You could then turn the layer and its points and point symbols on or off as needed. I would like to do this with the description. I do not have description option with CNG. Okay. There are several settings that you can do here to help with that. Under point defaults, you have the option to separate the layers on the points. You can do none, which is probably what yours is set to by default, points, symbols, or both. So if you do both, it's going to put points and symbols on separate layers. And the layer name will be based on what you have set here, which is points. So for this first one, we can say points. Well, let's just say we're going to enter a deed. We'll call it deed 1. We'll leave descriptions. Oh, we don't want elevations. Located on real z-axis. We don't really care because we don't have elevations. We can set the symbol to whatever we want. You can set how these the point groups line up here. 1 is default. I either like 1 or 2. I'm just going to leave it with 1. You could set up the field to finish over here if you wanted. We're not going to get into that. You could also do prompt for symbol name every time if you wanted to do different symbols. Usually if I'm doing a deed plot, I don't worry about the symbol. I just leave the default one and let it go. So now if we go into survey, we've got our point default set up. So we'll go into survey, enter deed description. Now I'm going to give it the same layer to put the lines and curves on, and the points layer would be deed 1 also. This will put everything on the same layer, which if you want the line work to go off and not the points, you can't do it this way because both of them are going to go off. So a good option would be to put PNTS underscore deed 1 for the points, or you could do deed 1 underscore points. That way your deed 1s are grouped together. Let's do it that way, see what we get. Traverse by, I'll just do bearings. We'll do complete points. Now on the line work, you asked that in another question, how can you put the bearings and the distances on a different layer? And you can set that up here under the edit, and that'll take us into our annotation defaults. And then we would probably want to go to the general settings, and under general settings distance, we have the distance layer here, so we can change the distance layer. I set it to bearing text distance. Could do it deed 1 distance, and angle could be deed 1 underscore BRG for deed 1 bearing. I'll OK that. You can do the same thing for arcs and arc table information. You can put it on separate layers too, I believe, if you go into the general settings and look through all that. I'm going to OK that, and I'm going to draw the line work. I'm going to create it into a polyline when it's done. If you don't do create polyline, it'll just do individual line segments. I'm going to have it prompt us for the description. You can do elevations also. I like to store a deed file. I'm not going to do it at this point, but if you ever need to, if you're doing a big deed and you might need to plot that same deed in another drawing, if you store it to a deed file, then you can just draw from deed file. Raw data is just the same as the raw data that would come out of the data collector. You can look at it and make changes. I also like to do this because if I make a mistake while I'm entering the deed, I could actually go into the raw data and correct it and then just plot from the raw data. Those are all your options there. I'm just going to go with what I've got here, and we'll see what we get. So pick a point or point number. I'm just going to pick a point here on the screen. It's asking me for a description. I'm just going to do IP for everything. The bearing, I'm going to do 145, and I'm going to go 100 feet. And then I'm going to do 240, description, IP. Then I'm going to do 245, and I'm going to go 100 feet. and IP, and then I'm gonna go 345 100 feet IP, and then 445 100 feet, and then IP, and I'm gonna exit. And I noticed nothing is coming up on the screen. It's probably off somewhere, so I'm going to do a zoom extents, and there's what we've got. Now I can click on each individual item, and I can see that this is on deed 1 distance, because we clicked on the distance. We clicked on the bearing, it's deed 1 bearing. And these are going to be on deed 1 points, and because this is a point group block, we're not seeing the different layers for the number and the symbol and the description. The line work should be on deed 1 points. I didn't think we put that on deed 1 points, but maybe I typed that in there by accident. So now if we go up here and look at our layers, we've got point elevation, point number, point description, deed 1 number, deed 1 elevation, deed 1 description, deed 1 points, and deed 1. We don't have any elevations, but if we wanted to turn the description off, we could just freeze. Turning things off doesn't work in a point group. You have to freeze the entity in the point group. That may be the issue you're having. So you have to, to get the description to go off, you have to freeze it. So, and then if I want the point number to go off, I think it's points here. We'll freeze that. No, that's everything. We don't want everything to go off. Okay, we did deed 1 number to go off. We turn the deed 1 number off. Okay, and then we should have the symbol is actually the deed 1. No, wrong, that's the line work. It's deed 1 points because we already turned it off, and that gets rid of the symbol. But those symbols are really part of the point group and not really the symbol that you probably want. What you probably want, and this is another question you had, so I'll answer it, is how do I put a different symbol in here? And you just do draw symbols, insert symbols, and then you can pick your different symbol. You can prompt for rotation if it's something square or something that needs rotated, and you can do erase the existing symbol, and in this case I'd want to say yes, and then I can say the layer for the symbols could be deed 1 underscore SYM or something. And we got prompt for attributes, whatever. We'll just leave that. We'll do a different symbol, pick a different symbol from the library just so we know we've made changes. Let's just do this SP11 for the IP, and I'll click OK. And if I click on that point, it's gonna ask me, we just keep clicking and put the symbols in that we want. Now if we look at those symbols, it's on deed 1 symbol. We can that's how you put symbols on different layers. It's just draw symbols, insert symbol, select the symbol. You can set it to prompt. Thought it would prompt for attributes. I'm not sure what that's doing right there. Oh, I know what it is. Our point doesn't have any attributes to prompt for, but if we selected, I think there's one in here that has attributes. Anyway, if it was a point symbol that had attributes, it would prompt us to put that information in there. I don't know if any of these have attributes or not. Doesn't look like that one does. I thought maybe it would prompt for text. Basically, the attributes is text. If this was a symbol with attributes like SS, I could change, or a number or something that would prompt for that. So that's how we changed that. And basically you would have to go through that process for every deed. So if I wanted to enter a new deed and put it on another layer, I would want to go to my point defaults and change this to deed 2, and then I would go survey, enter deed description. I would change this one to deed 2. I thought I had current line on deed. Okay, I can do deed 2 points. Okay, I can start there and go 145, no, 245, 100 feet, and IP. I'm going to renumber. It's trying to use another number that's already used. And then I'm going to go 345, 100 feet, and IP, and 445, 100 feet, IP, and 145, 100 feet, IP, E for exit, and it'll label all that up. Now if I wanted my bearings here to be on a different layer, I needed to go to the enter deed description. I needed to go to the edit and go to the general settings and change the distance and the angle layers here to deed 2. I know it's a lot of changing, so I don't normally do it that way. Okay, you can go in and change this to a different layer. So I could go into my layer manager and create a new layer. Let's just do new layer deed 2 underscore bearing, and new layer deed 2 underscore distance. Okay, I'll close that down, and then I can just highlight all those, either crossing or select each individual one. This one would be north, so I'd take that one, and one of the distances doesn't matter, and put it on D2. Oh, wait a minute, we're doing separate distances. So I'd do distance, 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 and put it on D2 distance, and then I would do bearing, 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 and set it on D2 bearing. And we notice they're white. So that's kind of a long way around. But you know, an easier way would be to turn off the first one and change all the layers. Anyway, this is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to move on. Hopefully that answers your questions. How do I keep snaps on? When I close drawing and reopen, I have to reactivate snaps again. Actually, the snaps, they should stay set to whatever you had set when you closed the drawing. Now, if you open up another drawing and you turn nodes off or turn the snaps off, and you save and exit that drawing, the next drawing you open, it's going to be off. So it remembers your last settings. So as far as I know, there's no way of saying this is the snaps that I want on, and you can just double click on it to turn it off and double click on it to turn it on. Right clicking and going to settings to change it. So it's pretty easy to turn them on and turn them off. But as far as I know, there's no way to say I always want them on and I always want this particular snap turned on. What layer are point symbols on, and can they be assigned to different layers? We kind of already covered that. When I move points, why don't the associated lines move? I use translate screen entities. So if I wanted to move these points somewhere else, you're saying you want the lines to move with it. Points, oh shoot, where the heck is translate points? It's under just coordinates, translate points. If I translated 1 to 12, I would just say original point is 1 here, destination point is 12, and translate screen entities, range of points 1 through 15, that should be everything. Okay, I'm just going to type all for everything and hit enter. Translated 15 points. Looks like everything went. Zoom extents. I guess the only way to know would be to look at our coordinates here. Alright, let's do this. Let's do points, adjust coordinates, translate points. Original point is 1. Destination point, we'll just put in 5,000, 5,000 here. Okay, and we're translating the screen entities. Range of points is all of them, 1 through 15. Okay, select the screen entities, and I'm just going to do all to select everything, and I'm going to hit enter because I don't have anything else to select. 15 points translated, and zoom extends. So now if I hover over around 1, it should be around 5,000, 5,000, and it's not. I must have something set here. Project setting, drawing setup. No, it's local. Okay, points, adjust points, translate points. Original point, point number 1. Yeah, there's something going on because it's saying point number 1 is 5,000, 5,000. Why is it not? Oh. Well, where is point number 1? Points. Zoom to points. View. Zoom points. Number 1. 50. And point number 1's out there to somewhere. There's no point number 1. Points, list points, all points. Must have been all. Let's do points. Draw, locate points. Draw. Okay, we got some points way down here where I drew something else or something. Anyhow, going to just points, translate points, write existing coordinates. Points, erased points, 1 through 6. Number 1 through 6. Yes. 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 Zoom extents. Alright, let's just translate. I've started here with 7. I thought I started with 1, but I started with 7, so that's why my translation wasn't working correctly. It was working, it just wasn't translating where I thought it was. 1 was off somewhere else. But anyway, so let's try it again. Points, adjust coordinates, translate points. We'll start with point number 7. It's at some negative easting, northing, and I'm going to give it 5,000, 5,000. And I'm going to translate screen entities, range of points all, translate everything. And for the screen entities, I'm going to select all. And 9 points translated. And then I'm going to zoom extents. And now if I hover around number 7, we see that it's 5,000, 5,000. So everything translated. I think maybe you are not selecting the screen entities in that final step where I typed all right before I hit enter to move everything. If you don't select it, that's why it's not moving, even though it's in the points. You're saying translate screen entities. It's not picking them all. It's prompting you to pick what entities you want to move. It considers screen entities to be all line work, anything that's not points associated. So if you wanted to only move points and you didn't have this checked, when you picked them from the screen, you could just do a window and pick everything on the screen, and then it wouldn't move your line work, it would only move the points. So that's a good way of protecting your drawing. If you just want to move points around, you would turn that off. But in your case, you wanted to move the line work with it also. That's where you would need to have that selected, but you would also need to select the line work and symbols and entities and everything that you want to move with it. If you don't select it, it's not going to move. Can the decimal places be set to less than 6 or 8 digits? Yes. And that is under settings. I think it's under the IntelliCAD options, actually. Profiles, display. Actually no, it's settings, units control, display precision, coordinate input, display. Where is that? Linear units, and your coordinate system. Nope, that's not what I'm thinking of either. think it's under Carlson. Settings. Could have swore it was here. It's probably under annotation defaults. Okay, can the decimal places be set to less than 6 or 8 digits? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, because there's a couple different places that coordinates can be dealt with there. If you're talking about in the annotate label coordinates and elevations, then you've got the precision here. You can set for the label of coordinates. If you're talking about like in the list points, we've got it set to 2. I've got it set to 2. That's actually points, list points. You see the precision here, decimal places for elevation and northing and easting. So those two places I know. If you're talking about down here, I think that's set in the settings here, IntelliCAD options. I'm not sure exactly where that is now, but there's a place to set that. Let me look for. Okay, yes, the decimals down here, it's under settings, units control. Change it from angular. Here you can set your angular precision, but we can also change it to linear units, and you can change it from 7 down to 4. So that changes here. I think those are the only places I know of to change the decimal places, if that's what you're looking for. How do you change the decimal points in area? If I do area and I do a area default and I click on acres and then edit, I have the precision over here. So I can change the font style and the size and all that, the layer for it, and what the suffix is, and all that good stuff is set here. And I can set the precision to 2 decimal places, 1, none, whatever. So that's where I can set that. And it needs to be in this used area, and you can change the precision of your square feet also, same thing. Can I enlarge top and bottom bars? Yes, you just move your mouse until it's over that line and see it changes to a double line with arrows pointing up and down. Left click and hold and drag. So that makes it as big or as small as you want. And you actually talked about dual monitors and putting the text in a different monitor. Yes, you can just left click and drag out. I actually have dual monitors, so I just drag it over to my other monitor and drop it, or drag it back into this one double click up here in the gray area and it'll put it back down in the bottom. And you can do the same thing. I don't think you can resize the top up here other than moving these layers, the toolbars out. I could move the toolbars over here to my other monitor, or I can drag them back in to this screen. So if you got dual monitors, I don't know if I would like all my toolbars on the other monitor. It'd be too far to run the mouse back and forth. But you can drag these toolbars around and get rid of them and get more area up here. So that's about all you can do there. How do I put a symbol on drawing without a number attached? We kind of already covered that. That is just draw symbols, insert symbol, and I can insert a symbol anywhere on the screen. It doesn't have to have a point. So I can just insert them over here anywhere. Okay. Can I put bearings and distances on different layers? Yes, I covered that. Just go into the annotation defaults, and angle you put it on there, and distance you put it on, change the layer there. How do I calculate rotation bearing for text? Can I use point to point? Not sure exactly what you're talking about, but there are several options. You can align text to things. So I can do edit text, and you've got all kinds of, you can do text, rotate text by pick. So I could select the text to rotate, and then it gives me the rotation point there, and I can pick another object, or I can just kind of eye it. To level, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about there, but that's where all your text edits are, and your different, you can line up text on horizontal or vertical. Let's do horizontal. Pick horizontal position. There's my horizontal line. Select the entities and select that entity, and one's filtered out. And yeah, it must have been already close to, let's do it again with one that's not already close to horizontal. I just right click to select that to repeat the command. I'm going to do horizontal, select the horizontal position, select the entity, and it didn't do anything. I'm going to do a dtext. It might not be doing it because it's test text. I'm just going to rotate that a little bit. Alright, edit. Shoot, where's my text? Line up text. Line up text on horizontal position, select the entity, one's filtered out. I'm not sure why that ain't working. Anyhow, I'll have to cut this out because this is kind of dumb. Edit text. rotate text. Rotate text, just a regular rotate text. You can select to rotate by a twist screen, by azimuth if you want a certain azimuth, entity segment, follow, or pick. A follow is if you have like a circle and you want the text to go around that circle, you can do the follow, or if you have like a contour line, you can use the follow. Azimuth, we can tell it to do a certain azimuth. So if I wanted 45, select the entity, and now that entity's on a 45. So if we know the bearing of the line, we can rotate the text using that. I think maybe that's what you're looking for. One of those two, or just the regular rotate command and pick and rotate. That's probably about all I have on that. What about two monitors? Can it be set for graphics on one and text on the other? Yes, I covered that. Can I adjust the width of text? Well, yes, we just saw that actually in that command, I think. Where did I see that? Edit text, edit text, or change text width. Select the entities. Enter the new width. I can do 4, and that's gonna stretch it out. I think you're talking about, oh, text weight. I read that wrong. Width. You said, how do I adjust the weight? When it's plotted, really you do that in the plot styles. We kind of covered that. I don't think there's a way to do it. Text size, text font, that's pretty much it. But if I wanted this text to plot bolder, I would set the text to a certain color and then give the color a different weight in the plot style. So if I go to plot, blah blah blah, something about my printer not set up. They've moved things around on me here. This is really the first time I've been into 2013. Page setup. We want, let's just go into my plats, plot style, and I'm going to edit that. I think I have cyan set as a little bit bolder line weight. So I kind of did a plot style table for you and sent it to you, where I set out all the colors to black except for the gray ones. The 250, I think, I guess 249 to 255. I'm not sure what I did on yours, but I have those set to use object color, and everything else I have set to black other than the color I use for my logo. I forget which one that is, but color 14 I usually use for my border on my sheets, and as you can see it has a really heavy line weight of 0.5. So that's how you get text to plot using a heavier line weight. Really you just have to set the text to a color that you know has a heavy line weight, so I know my cyan is a heavier line weight, so I would set D2 distance. I would go to D2 distance here. Where is it? Distance, and set the color to the cyan. And now when I plot that, it's going to plot a little heavier. I could set it to 14, D2 distance, colors 14. I can just type 14 in down here. And if I did plot preview, which it probably won't do because I don't have a plotter set up. Apparently it's not doing it. Yeah. I guess I don't have my printer set up. Printer. So you wanted to know if you could plot to a PDF. Well, yes. I use a program. It's called PDF 995. I also have Adobe Acrobat I purchased, so I have the option to plot to a PDF. I recommend the PDF 995, and you can find that on the website. I'm going to cancel this. Just go to the internet and go to, and drag it over here. It's on my other screen. Come on, move. Won't move for some reason. There it goes. Just go to PDF 995 and download now, and you want the converter and the printer driver. You need both of them. You probably don't need all this other stuff, so you have to install the converter to do the printer. If you pay the $10, or I think you can do $19.95 and get the whole suite or something. I purchased at one point, and the PDF 995 suite has all of these options to work with PDFs, so you can do that suite. Enterprise, I purchased it at one point. It's a really good program, but it basically puts in a printer driver to allow you to plot to a PDF. I think you can also do File, Save As, and I think maybe not. I thought maybe we had a PDF format, but I guess not. Export, maybe. Yeah, export as a PDF. I knew we had something here. Export drawing as a PDF. I don't know that it gives you the options to do the sheet size and all that. Let's see what happens. We can do all the geometry and give it a title and all that good stuff. and I don't even know where it exports it to. Anyway, for that I really recommend the PDF 995. It's probably going to be your best option. Let's see, you had a couple other questions that came in a little bit later. Time date stamp, can the size and location be adjusted? I don't know, let me search. I'm not sure what time and date stamp you're talking about. I'm gonna have to ask you to give me more information on that one. 15, how do I set up automatic backup? I have a problem with the message Windows Explorer has stopped working and then Windows Explorer is restarting. I've lost about the last 10 minutes of work. I hope auto backup will help solve the problem. That's under settings, IntelliCAD options, general, enable autosave every, and you can set the minutes. You can set it every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, every minute if you want, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. 15 is actually a pretty good number. You know, depending on how fast you can work, you can't really do a whole lot in 15 minutes, so you wouldn't lose much. It gives it a SV $ extension, and if the path is set here somewhere, and they've changed the look of this, so I'm not sure where the backup file is going anymore. Oh, down here it tells me. Well, auto backup right here. It should tell you where it's saving those files. So if it crashes or whatever, you can just go to wherever it says you're storing your SV $ file and just find it and change the extension from SV $ to DWG, and it should open right up. 16, I want to set up a string of lots points online. Is there a command in Carlson, or is it only in CNG? When I added additional rows, they seem to go to a different layer. I set my layer to plots, and they appeared in plots and point plots. Need a lot of training in the area of layers. Yeah, layers are probably one of the toughest things, because you have to have the forethought to think, what layer is this object that I'm creating going into. So you pretty much have to, every time you're drawing something or doing anything, you have to think, what's my current layer, which it shows you up here. My current layer is 0. I can change my current layer to whatever I want, D2, and now my current layer is D2. So anything I do right now, unless I've got it set in a different layer in any of these defaults somewhere, point defaults or annotation defaults or area defaults or lot defaults, any of the default settings could override my whatever my current layer is. But if I just go and draw a line right now, it's going to put it in D2. Or if I insert a symbol and don't give it a layer, it's going to go into D2. So you have to remember what layer things are going to go into. And you also have to remember that if you just left click on something, it's going to show me what layer it's in up here. and escape to get out of that. So if I click on that, it's in D2 bearing. That is in D2 distance. That is in D1 distance. That is in D1 bearing, and so on and so forth. And can just as easily change it to a different layer just by going up and selecting that layer and changing that object to that whatever layer I want it in. Points on a line. Let me research that a second here. Okay, I want to set up a string of lots. Points on line is the command in Carlson or only in CNG. I tried CNG and got my first string. When I add additional rows, they seem to go to a different layer. I set my layer to plots, and they appeared in plots and point plots. Need a lot of training layers. Okay. There's a couple of different commands here. Under Kogo, interpolate points. You got divide along entity. You got to divide between points. It points on an arc. You got elevation between points. Interval between points. Interval along entity. If we want a certain distance between points, we can do that, and we can set the layer here. We can set the starting point number, so if I want to do it on 100, and I can do them at set as the layer, and we can set the horizontal distance between points here or prompt for it. Let's do 10, and then on curve segments, same thing, 10. And we can prompt for description at each point or same description at each point. And we could set the description. Label elevations, no. Automatic point number, blah blah blah. Okay. Select the entity to interpolate points. I select that polyline, and wham, it does them all. Okay. We can do pick one of those. And it should be on. Well, we've got our point defaults, so they are set on layer set, and then all the point symbols and numbers are in different layers. They're on set mark, set number, all that. So those are your different layers. Again, there's two controls there. The point defaults is controlling the layer here, because we've got it set to separate layers from previously, so that's set. You also have divide along entity, interpolate elevations, and no, select entity to divide, and number of segments. So I could say I want to divide that into 3 equal segments. It did this whole polyline, so it set one of them here. Not sure where the other one's at, but since it's this entire polyline, it didn't quite do what I thought it would do there. But anyway, you get the idea. Divided, set point 3 points on this at an equal distance apart. Interval between points lets you set it. It just doesn't give you the prompt box like we saw before. So I could do an interval between this point and this point, and then it asks me for the interval distance, and I could say every, well, I don't know, 5 feet. And it gives us points every 5 feet up to the last one, and it puts the remaining distance there at the end. So, but that's all of your line division. The interpolations are here. So it's under Kogo interpolate points. And you got several commands there between 2 points or an entire entity. Alright, well, I think that answers all your questions, and I've got about an hour in here of recording. I'll probably chop it down and try to get it down a little bit further, and maybe chop it up into little shorter answers, so you don't have to watch the whole thing all at once, and you can refer back to each one of them individually. Hopefully that answers most of your questions and will help you out. Thanks. Bye.